I forgot to hit record. So if you're watching recording, you've missed a couple of minutes. Anyway, so like I was saying, a lot of our aches and pains come from tightness in the low back and in the hips. And part of that is because our society, we've gotten so sedentary and we only move in one direction. We only move forward. Well, the hip is actually a ball and socket joint. So it's a round knob at the top of your thigh that goes into this little cup, and it'll actually rotate, but we don't do that. And after a while, we stop having the ability to do that. And all of those muscles, tendons, ligament, the fascia tightens up, and now we can't. So what we're going to work time and patience is to open that back up. So as time goes by, we're going to get those feet further and further and further, just to get that openness. But we'll start out by just sitting comfortable, seated in the chair. Then the other thing we have a tendency to do, and that's why you don't get to use the back of your chair, is we don't sit up. So we will work to sit up. So what I say is find a long spine. So lengthen, like your head was being drawn up by a cord toward the ceiling, a long spine. And then it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. It'll get more natural. Draw your shoulders back just a little bit and down, and you might roll them 2 or 3 times. In fact, we'll work on shoulders a little bit, but roll them 2 or 3 times. We tend to hunch forward, so we work hard to sit up. So roll them a couple times. Actually, let's start with shoulders. So get your feet anchored, and let's start. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. Now, one of the magic parts, there's 2 magic parts about closing your eyes. One is it signals the nervous system and that deep instinctual saber-toothed tiger part of your nervous system that you're safe. Otherwise, she'd have her eyes open. So when we close the eyes, we've signaled the nervous system that we're safe. And the other thing that happens is when you close your eyes, you're now invisible. So nothing you do looks funny. And that makes it all that much easier to do. So if you're comfortable, soft gaze or close your eyes. Sit up tall and find your breath. Just become aware of your breath. Just notice where your breath is moving in your body. Just noticing, not right or wrong, and we're not going to change it today. We'll work with that another time, but we're just becoming aware of the breath. And maybe slowing the breath down just a touch so that we can breathe just a little deeper. And when we inhale, let that lift you up. Let it fill you up, inflate you, and lift you. And then when you exhale, let yourself soften. Just a longer, slower inhale and a longer, slower exhale. Then let's work on shoulders just a little bit. Eyes can stay closed or come open, but take your arms, draw your elbows back behind your hips, give them a little rock back and forth, and then send both arms reaching out in front of you, palms up. Now you can do one arm at a time or both. Arms get heavy, so we won't do a lot of this today. We'll build as time goes by. Both arms out in front of you, but make sure that you're not arching forward. Your arms are actually sort of plugged into your body as you sit up tall. Take a nice inhale, and then when you exhale, bend your elbows, fold your fingers back to touch your shoulders. Let the elbows stay lifted. Inhale, reach out toward me. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, reach out toward me. And exhale, fold in. Leave the hands on the shoulders. We're going to change to a different pattern. Inhale, take the elbows as wide as is comfortable. Let the shoulder blades touch behind you if they will. And on the exhale, bring the elbows together to kiss. Inhale, take the elbows wide. And exhale, bring the elbows in to touch. Inhale, take the elbows wide. Exhale, bring the elbows in. We're going to add the 2 together. Inhale, fingers come out. Exhale, fingers fold in. Inhale, elbows go wide. Exhale, elbows to center. Inhale, fingers out. Exhale, fold them in. Inhale wide. Exhale to center. Just one more. Arms are getting heavy. Inhale to reach out. Exhale to fold in. Inhale to go wide. Exhale to come in. Since you've already got a kiss going, give yourself a hug. Just wrap one hand around and give yourself a hug. And then wrap the other hand around and give yourself a hug. And sit up tall. And then give it a wiggle. Give it a hokey pokey and shake that out. So let me see. I told Wanda I didn't know what we were going to do today. We were going to figure it out after you got here, after I got a chance to talk to you a little bit. So Wanda, we're working on the chair primarily today, but we will not stay here going forward. I just want Bobby to be comfortable to know this is always an option. So what we're going to do next, we got the shoulders a little bit worn, is we're going to work through the spine. Spine will move 6 directions. We're going to lubricate it all 6 directions. So start sitting up. I try to mirror, so I will tell you, bring your right hand down beside your hip while I hope to move my left. So don't let me confuse you too much. Then bring your left hand across to your right knee. Sit up tall, long spine, wide shoulders, and twisting from your belly button. So hips stay in line with your knees. Just take a little twist to one side. Inhale, bring the hand back to the chair. Exhale, cross it over and go the other direction. Long spine, wide shoulders, long neck. Inhale, anchor, and then twist. Come back through center. Inhale, anchor, and then twist. Let's go one more each direction. Inhale, bring it across. Exhale, we take the twist. One more the other direction. Anchor, and then twist. And then come back to the center. Bring your right hand down one more time on the bottom of your chair. Left hand comes out, up, and over. Now, I like to tuck that elbow into the back of my chair so that I don't fall off. And you want to keep your shoulders back over your hips so we're not leaning too far forward or too far back. We're stretching out the ribs. Inhale, bring that hand up and over, find the anchor as the other hand comes up and over, and on the exhale, we let the stretch the ribs the other direction. Inhale, reach for the sky, find your anchor. Inhale, come up, and exhale, go over. We'll do one more each direction. Inhale, come up, and exhale, go over. Inhale, come up, find your anchor, and our exhale takes us over, and then come back to center. Shake out the shoulders if you need. Bring both hands down to your knees. Now you may just leave your knees about hip width distance apart. And interestingly enough, for most of us, that is 2 fists. That will get you hip width distance apart. Because we're not talking outer hips, we're talking bones. Or you may like to take your feet a little wider. That's up to you. Bring your hands down to your knees if your balance feels stable. If it doesn't, bring your hands to the seat of your chair. And we'll inhale to find some length in the spine. Exhale, roll your chin toward your chest, and then curl down your spine. Hands can stay behind you to stay anchored, or they can come to your knees, whichever feels more comfortable. But take your time to curl down your spine. Chin on your chest, nose toward your navel, forehead toward your knees. Inhale, straighten from the bottom up. So hips, low back, mid back, shoulders, neck, head. Tuck your elbows in, arch your spine the other direction. And now maybe you keep control of your head, or maybe it feels good to take that all the way up through to your chin. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, roll it back down. Curl it down. Inhale, come back to center. Slowly stack the vertebra. And exhale, we arch the heart forward. Inhale back to center. Exhale, last one, curl it down. Inhale, come back to center. And exhale, curl it the other direction. and then come back to center. Take any wiggle waggles that you need to take. So let's bring a little bit of attention to hands. That is often a problem with us baby boomers. We start to get a little of my uncle arthritis going in those hands. So we're going to lubricate those joints as well. So just take your hands out in front of you, wherever's comfortable. You can rest the arms, but spread your fingers wide, like you were going to palm a basketball. Really spread them wide, and then draw them in and make the tightest fist you ever made in your life. And then spread them wide, and then draw them in for a really tight fist. One more time each way. Spread them wide, and then draw them in to make the fist. And while you've got the fist, give the fists a little dance. Roll them one way, roll them the other. Try a little brain game. Can you roll one clockwise and the other counterclockwise? If you do, you have to teach the class. Yeah, it's interesting how they don't, how much control you do not have, but roll them both directions. Let's get that joint lubricated just a little bit. So I'll show you another trick here. We're going to work a little on wrists. So we're working the whole body a little bit. Interlace your fingers in front of you, thumbs up, and interlace them all the way to the joint of the fingers. Ideally, you'd like to lift the elbows up and maybe have them about shoulder height, but arms are heavy. If you need to drop them, do that. But we'd love to have them come up a little higher. Do the Chinese finger game. Do you remember that back in the day, that little straw thing? Squeeze your fingers together and then attempt to pull your fingers apart without letting your fingers move. And then push your fingers together, like the right hand was going to go right through the left and vice versa. Squeeze the fingers and pull them apart, and then push them in together. Squeeze them to pull them apart, and then push them in together. Now we'll get ready to go. With hands facing you, actually, let's take it palms down. I think it's easier for you to understand what I'm asking you to do. Take a break whenever you're ready. But palms down, find a 90-degree bend in one wrist and a 90-degree bend in the other. So the fingers are pointing straight up and down. The wrists are stacked, but we've got a 90-degree angle. And then take that the other direction. 90 degrees, elbows are going to want to head for your lap. Ask them to come back up. Do that a couple times, just sort of move through that. Just a couple of times, moving through that. And bring them back to center. That now we'll get a little more tricky. Face the palms towards you and find the same 90-degree bend. 90 degrees, and just make it a flow, just moving through easy. We're just lubricating the joints, getting a little stretch in some of the smaller muscles. And then release your hands, shake them out. Shake out your arms, give them a good hokey pokey, shake them like you mean it. And we'll do enough of shoulders for today. Let's go down to feet. We'll get to the middle in just a minute. I'm a yoga teacher. I adore naked toes. Welcome. So look down at your toes, spread them out, and set them back down. Pick up your toes, spread them out, and set them back down. Pick up your toes and hold them for just a count of 1, 2, 3. Leave your right foot on the floor. Pick up your left foot. Walk it back behind you enough that you can bend your toes and stretch through the top of your foot and maybe up into your ankle. This is easier to do standing. So flip your toenails to the floor if you can, Bobby. Okay, good. Then don't do that, Bobby. Okay, unwind that one, bring it back to center. Let's go the other one. Let's see how that one does. That's why we're doing this, is hopefully to avoid foot cramps, is to get those moving a little bit. So then don't.
He likes it doing it this way, but when I take the toes back the other way, that arch wants to cramp.
Then we stop doing that. All right, bring the feet back to center and give them a little curl. So leaving your right foot on the mat, stretch your left one out and point your toes like you were a ballerina about to perform. Your foot may not like this again. And then flex your toes back toward your nose. See how your foot likes that. And then point your toes and flex your toes. And point them and flex them. And then draw that foot back in and do the other. Let me do a little maintenance here on our system. All right, I thought I had lost Wanda. So do the, no, I just had not gotten it full screen. So do the other one and do some pointing and some flexing. And then bring that back in. Leaving the right foot down, left foot is going to come up. Now, if it's too heavy to hold the foot, feel free to anchor your hands underneath it, but let the leg lay limp. I like to anchor and then give some ankle rotations, just like we did with the wrist, just sort of rolling it one way and rolling it the other. And then set that one down. Let's go the other side and give the ankle rotations the other direction. There you go. Now, if you have a block handy, and Bobby, I didn't give you one. Ladies at home, if you do not have a block handy, you're fine. But I will tell you that I love all of the props. So anytime you can use a toy, I like to use the props. So if you have a block handy and you're sitting up on a chair, bring the ball of your left foot to the block. If you're on the floor, we'll do it slightly differently. Just give me a minute. Drop your heel lower than the block to find a little more flex of your foot forward. And then we'll lift the heel way up, but the toes are still flexed. And if you don't have a block, the same idea on the floor, you're just lifting up on the toes. And then when you go the other direction, put the heel down and lift the toes up. We're just getting a little more motion into a different part of the toes and the ankles. A significant part of our balance comes from our ankle bones, our ankle joints, and we let them get lazy because we wear shoes, demon shoes. Let's do the other leg. So whether you're on the block or on the floor, we're coming up on the toes. So we're really engaging that calf muscle. You probably feel it. And then we let the heel go below the toes, whether it's off the edge of the block or just on the floor. So a couple of those going each direction. And we're done. Stretch that out. Now, anchored on your chair, and I'm sorry, nice lady in pink whose name I can't see. Say your name.
Patty. Patty?
Patty, thank you, Patty. So if you're on a chair, please be on about the front third of it, half to a third. Send your heels out nice and wide. Anchor your hands on the chair. So we're going to do a lot of work on the chair today, Patty, but probably not going forward. We're just figuring out some range of motion today. So anchor the hands down so that you've got points of contact and keep the heels wider than the chair. And then drop the toes in toward each other, but let that happen from up in the hips. And then roll the toes out, and then roll the toes in, and roll the toes out, and roll the toes in. One more time, roll the toes out, and then roll the toes in. And then bring the feet back to center and go ahead and draw those back in just a little bit. We'll do a seated variation of a child's pose. We'll do this standing up or on the mat another day. Really what I want to do today is lay out some of these are your chair possibilities so that 3 weeks from now, if you're tired or your right hip hurts, you know what your options are. So still sitting up tall, you can anchor your hands on your chair, find length in your spine, width in your shoulders, and then allow your chest to roll forward and your forehead to come down maybe to your nose. You don't have to touch. You just put it in a direction. Pressing your body on purpose and you're closing in the nervous system just a little bit. And lift up about halfway and toe heel your feet apart, maybe the width of your chair. Hanging on, and then try that again. And maybe this time, you drop a little lower, and maybe not. But stay anchored to your chair, no fall falling out of your chair. and then lift up about halfway. Leave your left hand anchored to your chair. Bring your right hand across, elbow to knee, and sort of droop off that side of your chair. So it's not stiff, it's not formal. We're getting a stretch up the back side body. That's a really hard place to get to stretch, and it's notoriously tight. Then inhale with control and care, anchor the right hand, left arm comes across, and we begin to sort of slide down and droop off the chair the other direction. So we're compressing the tummy on purpose. Since it's a little hard to do, lift up, come out of it, and then come back in. And then come back up. Let's come back up to seated on our chair.
Excuse me, I think your mic,
Carol,
Yes.
you're squishing your mic when you go down on it. So
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear
yeah,
you
it's
now.
when you go down, it gets muffly.
Is it getting, it's down in my yoga teacher pocket is what's happening. And it's getting,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Okay. I'll try not to compress that quite as much. We'll stay lifted. We're going to be lifted from now on. So bring your feet out in front of you, a nice hip width distance apart, shins straight up and down. So knees over heels. Make sure you can still see your big toes. So you got a little length there. Anchor down through your sits bones. We don't say butt in yoga. So these are your sits bones. And it really is a bony piece that's under there. But find a little length in your spine and width in your shoulders. And then take the hands wide and reach out and up for all of the energy you can. And hold this imaginary ball of energy up overhead. This is extended mountain pose. And hold it for just a breath. And then bring your hands down to heart center. And then let's do that again. Big sweeping motion. So we've got lots of range of motion in the shoulders as we reach way out, way up, way overhead. And hold. Roll the pinky fingers in, thumbs go back. Shoulders are down away from the ears. And then softly bring the hands to heart center. One more of those. Inhale, take the hands up and over. And exhale, bring the hands to heart center. Now I'm going to fold forward. I'll be right back. On your next exhale, fold your heart, your tummy toward your thighs. Hands can stay on your legs, come to the floor, come to a block, wherever feels comfortable, or stay back anchored on your chair. Inhale, come back up and take that sweeping motion on the next inhale, up and over. Exhale, fold your thumb, tummy to your thighs. Hands can stay in front or come back to your chair to be more secure. One more. Inhale, come all the way up. And exhale, fold it down. Inhale, big sweeping movement up and overhead. Left hand takes hold of right. Find some length in that armpit. So straighten that arm up. And on your exhale, begin a soft tip to one side. Now, not too deep. We don't want to fall off the chair. Inhale, come up, switch the arms. Exhale, take a soft tip the other direction. Inhale, come up. Exhale, bring the hands back behind you, either to the chair or just floating as you fold your chest toward your knees. Inhale, come back up to center. Hands come up and overhead. We'll do that one more time. So find some length and then take a little side body bend. Inhale, come to center. Take a little side body bend on the exhale the other direction. Inhale, come to center. Exhale, let the hands come to the chair or sweep back behind you as you fold forward. Inhale, come back up to center, hands to the knees. This time, we're going to work a little bit more in the spine. We've been folding one direction. Bring your hands behind you. Now, those of you like Wanda sitting on the floor, feel free to bring your hands behind you and just interlace them this direction. Those of us that are sitting on the chair can reach back for the back of the chair or interlace your fingers and slide your hands between the back of the chair and the seat of the chair. But what we're looking to do is draw the elbows behind us together and open the shoulders a little bit, and the heart is going to arch forward. So it's a little bit of a seated back bend. You can do that with a chair by just reaching back a little further and rolling the shoulders behind you. And then inhale, release that, relax that, give it a little slump forward, and then reach it back one more time. Find length in the spine and pull it back behind you just a little bit more. And then relax, release that. Let's give it a little shake it out. So let's take a little more action. We're going to move a little bit more. How's the balance feeling? Pretty good. Okay. Block in front of you. Block has 3 settings: small, medium, and large. Start out with it down between your feet. Patty, do you have access to a block or a book or your water bottle if you're seated on a chair? Just something to cut the distance between you and the floor. Okay, you're good. So something down in front of you. You're probably not going to need it. And what we'll do is find out you don't need it, and then we'll push it out of the way. So sitting up nice and tall, that same forward fold we've been doing is what we're going to work with. Walk your feet maybe 1 footprint further apart and bring your hands together in front of you. Now, if your knees are wider than your elbows, close it back in. We're going to take a deep inhale, and as we exhale, let our hips rotate and let our elbows come to our knees to support our body. So we're just doing a soft forward fold, but we're letting the torso come between the thighs a little bit, tipping at the hips. And then inhale, come back up to center. And then exhale, fold that down again. Now, if you feel secure and stable, release your hands to the block, small, medium, or large, or to the floor. Now, that can be fingertips on the floor or palms to the floor. And you can walk the knees further apart if you need. Keep the block underneath you if you need. But we're looking for a little more length and strength in the low back. Leaving your hands touching either the floor or the block, inhale, lift halfway up. And you can push through the arms to do this. But lift halfway up. And then exhale, lower back down just a tiny bit. Inhale, lift halfway up. You can come up a little further. And exhale, lower down just a little bit more. One more of those. Inhale. That inhaling and lifting, we're building the little muscles that wrap the spine. And exhale, we lower. Leave the right hand in contact with something, the block or the floor, your choice. Take the left hand, start out with it just coming up to your knee, bend the elbow, and see how that feels. If that feels okay, then take the fingertips and start to reach for the sky and let your right shoulder roll into the middle just a little bit more. We're taking a little seated twist here. And then inhale, bring that back to center. Left hand comes to the middle, right hand starts at your knee. And you can push into the knee to begin to turn the shoulder. And then if it feels okay, we lift the hand for the sky. And then come back down to the knee and then to the block. Let's go the other side. Left hand comes to the knee, push into the knee. So we rotate the shoulders and then reach for the sky. Then hand drops to the knee, comes down to the block. We switch hands. Right hand comes to the knee, press down. So you rotate the shoulders and then reach for the sky. We'll go one more time each direction. Come down to the knee and the block. And if you can skip a step, feel free. I'm just showing you today some of the baby steps, some of the options. Let's go the last side, the last turn, this direction, as we find more length and strength in the back body, and then come back to center. Take your hands, challenge yourself here, anchor through your feet, anchor through your sits bones. You've still got 3 points of contact, but lift your hands away from the floor, away from the block, draw your belly up and in, and use your core strength to bring you back up to seated. And then lower halfway down, let your elbows be your safety net. So if you lose control, elbows are going to land on the knees and you'll catch yourself. Lower about halfway down. Then press the hands together, draw the belly up and in. Use the belly muscles to lift back up to tall seated. Press the hands together, draw the belly up and in, belly muscles lower down. Just one more of these little crunches. I snuck some core in on you. And then let's come back up one more time. And let's see where we're at. Doing the math in my head. All right, shake that out. And let's work just a little bit. We're going to work a little bit more of arms. So we're going to work a little warrior arms here. We're going to start to build a little more strength and openness in arms and shoulders. Arms are heavy. So if they get tired, bring your hands to your hips and you're just working part of the arms. But we're going to work a little bit of shoulders and upper back. So find your feet a comfortable width apart. Now, I tend to like mine a little wider. You may like yours a little closer. I like a broad stance. 3 points of contact if you're sitting on the chair. 1, 2, and that ought to count for 2. Anyway, 3 points of contact. Sit up tall, long spine, wide shoulders, and open heart. Bring your thumbs up to your collarbones. You can interlace your fingers for the moment, but bring your thumbs up to your collarbones and lift your elbows nice and high. And then send one arm out and send the other arm out. Gaze can stay forward for the moment. We're going to work a little arm strength. Inhale, flip your palms to the sky and rotate all the way from the shoulder socket. Exhale, rotate the palms down level with the floor, just level at this point. Inhale, roll the palms up. Exhale, roll the palms down. Let the thumbs drift down toward the floor. So we've got a little past level. Inhale, roll the palms up. Exhale, roll the palms down. Inhale, roll the palms up. Exhale, bring the hands together overhead, clasp them overhead, and let the shoulders relax just a moment. Now take the hands up as high as is comfortable without you feeling like you're crunching your low back. We're still working here to open a little bit through the armpits and down the rib cage. So this is still work. Arms are heavy. Exhale, drop the arms back down fairly level with the shoulders. Inhale, roll the right palm up and turn your face to look at it. Exhale, flip that one down, roll the other one up and turn to look at it. Inhale, switch and turn to look. Exhale, switch and turn to look. Inhale, switch and turn to look. Last one and we're done. And go the other side. And then bring your arms in and give you a hug and really wrap your fingers as far as they'll go around your shoulder blades so that you can compress into the armpits. We're sneaking in a little lymph node action there as you press into the armpits, and then love yourself the other direction. Switch the arms to the other side. Beautiful. And then let that go and shake it out. Give it a little wiggle waggle. Let's work a little more into the hips now. So still in our 3 points of contact, sitting firm and connected. And if you need to scoot back a little, that's okay. I'd rather you do that than fall out of the chair. But what we'd like to do here is called stir the pot, or looking around. I think we all remember hula hoops. We're going to do a little hula hoop action. So I suggest keeping your hands on your knees or on your chair rather than out today, because we've done quite a bit of shoulder work already today. But hands can come down to grip the chair. And we're going to take the left side of our chest down to the left knee, drop it through the center over to the right, and then come up and roll it the other, or roll it again. So we're really just moving in through the hips, the hip joints, the hip sockets, and we're getting some low back work in there. So stay anchored, don't fall off your chair. I like to hold the chair to be secure. Do 2, 3 of those, and then flip it around and go the other direction. Stir the pot the other direction. Let's go back the other way. 2 or 3 of those. And it's probably more like 4 or 5 of those. And then come back to center. Give everything a little hokey pokey and shake it out. We'll work a little hip stretch now. So take your right foot and step it in straight with your hip. Like I said, I like to get my legs wider, but right now I'd like you to line up your ankle, your knee, and your hip with your right foot. And then keeping the points of contact, we're going to start to lose 3 points and now only go to 2. Take your right knee and draw it up and in and give it a hug. And feel free to rock back in your chair on that one. So draw your knee up and in, and maybe point and flex your toes, roll your ankle, but hug that knee in nice and tight. Now, this is where I love for students to have a strap, just in case your arms are short. You use a strap or a belt or a leash to draw them in a little closer. So hug that knee in a little closer, and maybe you move a little geography out of the way so it hugs in just a little closer. And then lower that foot almost to the floor. Don't let it touch. Lift it back up and hug it in again. Sit up tall, long spine, wide shoulders. Lower that foot almost to the floor. Don't let it touch. And lift it back up again and hug it in. Let's do that one more time. Lower that foot almost to the floor. Lift it back up and hug it in nice and tight. Then with that foot lifted and knee bent, slide it over, drop your leg down on top of your leg, and sit up like you were on the subway in New York City. This is a figure 4 stretch. Now, you may already be feeling some stretch in the outside of your hip. Sit up tall and just let your leg rest on your leg. Make sure your foot is free to move. So it's leg bone to leg bone. You don't have the foot being torqued. So it's leg, bone stacked on bone. Sit up tall. How much stretch do you have in the outside of your hip? This is a bus stop posture. If this feels good, stay right here. But if you think you could handle a little more stretch, drop your arm down on top of your knee and begin to just fold forward just the tiny bit and let the weight of your arm and the weight of your torso press that knee out and down just a little bit to stretch into that hip socket just a little deeper. Flex your toes back towards your nose a little bit. That turns on some different muscle activation. And hips are stubborn, so we're going to give them a moment to stretch. And then we'll release and relax that, wiggle out that leg, take it out, give it some wiggles, spread it long, whatever it needs, and let's do the other side. So again, stacking knee over ankle, and with ankle, knee, and hip in a line, we'll work the other leg. So start by just folding it in and notice if it's different. This knee is much tighter than the other knee. So sometimes it won't fold in nearly as full. Some days it does, some days it doesn't. That's life. It is what it is sometimes. But hold it in, squeeze it in. Again, we're stimulating some lymph glands there, and we're beginning to convince the leg that it's going to stretch. And then with control, you can guide it all the way down. Let that foot almost go to the floor, but keep it hovering, and then pull it back up and in. Now you can use the hands to pull it up and in or not. Let it go almost to the floor and then pull it back up and in. And we'll do one more of those. Let that foot relax almost to the floor and then pull it up and in and give it a nice little hug. And give it enough of a hug. Like I said, sometimes you have to move a little real estate out of the way to really get as much depth of the fold of the knee and the hip as you can. And then when you're ready, the leg comes across and we drop leg to leg, leaving the foot and the ankle free. Sit up tall. Wide shoulders, long spine, open heart. Now, one of the things that I run into all the time is people think their body is symmetrical, and it's not. The right side of your body is nothing like the left side of your body. You use the two sides of your body completely different. If you're right-handed, try eating your dinner tonight with your left hand. Now, you don't get credit if you're left-handed because we force you to be ambidextrous. So that's just on you. But you may notice a lot of differences in your hips. Treat them like two individual hips. That was good. Give each one what it needs. Don't expect them to be the same. Ask each one what it needs. If you've got a stretch going and this hip is happy, leave it there. Otherwise, maybe a little more sensation. Just start with the weight of your arm, letting the weight of your arm go down on your knee and let that hip joint roll open just a little bit. Now, this for most people is deep into the I don't like this category. Okay, difference between pain and discomfort. Discomfort, I will ask you to sit with a little bit. Pain, stop. But discomfort, notice if after you breathe a minute, relax a minute, if that eases a little bit, and maybe it stretches just a little bit deeper, and maybe it doesn't. But over time and practice and patience, we'll get the openness we want in our hips. And then unwind, unwiggle all of that. Bring your feet down to the floor and give everything a little hokey pokey. Let's do a little seated compression, a little seated twist here that you may have seen before. It's a lot of fun and it's not a lot of fun all at the same time. Two halves of it. So I'm going to show you the top half and then I'll show you the bottom half and then we'll work with it just a little bit. It's called an eagle. And it is a compressed, it's a bind that happens where we wrap one body part around another. So sitting up tall, long spine, wide shoulders, reach your hands out like we did at the beginning of class and make sure your shoulder blades are plugged in. So we're not arching and reaching forward. We're just sitting up tall with our hands out in front of us. Then take the right arm under, left elbow inside the right elbow and fold the arms together. Backs of the hands can come to touch. This is a stretch across the top of the shoulder blades. So not the top of the shoulders, but the top of your back across the shoulder blades. Just start with the backs of the hands touching. Maybe if it feels okay, you lift the elbows up a little higher so that they're more in line with the shoulders. If it doesn't, drop them down. This is just a stretch of the shoulders. If this doesn't feel good at all, give yourself a hug. It's the same sensation. We just get to get into it a little deeper sometimes with eagle. Now, if this is okay, maybe you bring the palms of the hands around to touch each other. And as we sit up tall with the inhale, we lift the elbows a little higher. And if you'd like to take it further with the exhale, drop the hands in front of you just a little bit. It's all about stretching through the tops of the back of the shoulders. And then release that, relax that, shake that out. And then let's go the other side. So hands come back out in front, but this time other arm is on the bottom and we take the right arm on the top and start just the hands touching. And notice how this feels. Now, shoulders may be tired. We've worked some shoulders today. So inhale and lift the elbows. If it feels okay, drop the elbows to the chest if it does not, or take the hug option. If you want more sensation, wrap the hands. Yoga is all about exploring your body, getting to know it, to make friends with it, and maybe to talk it into being a little more cooperative sometimes. So elbows can lift on an inhale, hands can lower on the exhale. And then release and shake that out. So that's the bottom half or top half. Let's get to the bottom half. Bring your right foot in a little more towards center and cross your knees the way your mother told you to. Sit up tall. There you go. If this feels good, stay here. If you want a little more, but when I say stay here, don't stay here passively, stay here actively. Squeeze your thighs together and draw your heel a little closer to your leg as you're sitting up tall with long spine and wide shoulders. Now, if it's available to you, maybe you walk that bottom foot out and sneak the top foot behind your shin, behind the calf muscle. But all the while, you're squeezing the thighs together and squeezing the bottoms of the legs together. It's a compressed bind. You can do the same thing without taking the foot around the bottom, just making it active. Squeeze it in together and then let it go. Relax that out. Give it a little hokey pokey. Let's go the other side. Left foot comes more into center so that you stay aligned. Right leg comes up and cross your legs pretty high up if you can, even if that means being graceful and pulling it up. Just start here, long spine, wide shoulders, and then begin to invite that heel closer to your calf. And maybe that's where you stay today, is just actively pressing the legs together, actively pushing one way while the bottom leg pushes the other way. Or you probably find it easier if you toe heel the bottom foot out to wrap the top foot around. It's sort of hard to do if it's straight up and down. You need a little more length in the legs sometimes. Maybe you wrap it all the way around. And then unwind, release. Let's put the two halves together or not. Always your option to add pieces together or to do only one part at a time. So if we send the arms out and the right arm is going to be on bottom, left hand on top, and then the hands touch, maybe you wrap them around, maybe you don't, maybe you take the hug. This is all about customizing your practice. So the right arm is on bottom, which means the right leg goes to the top. And we sit up tall as we press everything into the center. Everything comes into the center. And at the same time, we breathe. Nice long inhales and nice long exhales. Nice long inhales and nice long exhales. And then unwind it. Give it a hokey pokey and let's go the other way. So we bring the other foot into center. Cross it over. I like to set the bottom up first, sometimes top up others. It doesn't matter. But whichever leg is on top is the arm that's on the bottom. Because down the road, we'll do some crunches where we bring the knee or elbow to the knee and sit up. But not today. Today, we're getting the basic shape of eagle and squeezing everything in. So squeeze the groin, squeeze the legs together, squeeze the armpits together, squeeze everything in while you breathe. Sit up tall, long spine. Shoulders are compressed, but the spine is long. And then on an inhale, unwind, unwiggle, roll the wrist, flip the wrist in and out a couple of times. Give it some movement in the wrists. Let's see what else we want to do today. Okay, just a little bit more and we will finish off for today. So sitting up tall one more time, walk the heels out a little wider, get the knees at least hip distance, if not perhaps more like shoulder distance apart. Plant the hands back on your chair if you need to be more secure, up on your knees if you're feeling pretty solid. So your choice, your judgment. Inhale to sit up tall. Exhale, drop one shoulder over toward the opposite knee. Inhale, come to center. Exhale, go the other direction. Inhale, come to center. Exhale, take that twist and a fold. Inhale to center. Exhale, take it across. Inhale, come back to center. Challenge yourself to walk the feet out 1 foot width. And let's try it again. Hands can come down to your chair to be more stable as you drop your shoulder across to the opposing knee. In through center and exhale, take the fold. Inhale through center and exhale, take that fold. One more time each direction. Inhale to center, exhale, take the fold. Inhale to center, And exhale, take the fold. And inhale back to center. Slide in one more little piece of work today before we close it out. And probably going forward, this is not lazy woman's yoga. You don't get to sit all the time going forward. So next week we will use the chair, but we'll be standing using the chair. And the following week, we will do 99% standing and we'll use the chair like a big block. So we're not going to, unless we need to sit, and then we sit. That's the way we do it. But I want to show you preparatory for next. No, we'll do that next week. I'm not going to show you. Bring your block in between your feet. Heels under knees, shins nice and parallel, and set the block more like in line with your big toe in between your feet. Hands come down to the chair to anchor you. Bring one foot up to the block, the other foot up to the block, and bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees drop wide. Now, if that's too much for your feet, for your ankles, then walk them off the block, get the block out of your way. But if you're able to bring the feet up to the block and then let the soles of the feet touch and let the knees drop wide, sit up tall, lengthen the spine, width in the shoulders. If you feel secure here, let go of the chair, float the hands up and overhead, and interlace the fingers above you. And then bring the hands to the back of your head and let the elbows go nice and wide, really nice and wide. This is a butterfly position. Send the elbows further back. Bring the shoulder blades together just a little more as you sit up tall, letting the shoulders in the front open and the hips open at the same time. And then bring the elbows into touch and then open the elbows wide. Bring the knees into touch. Try to keep the soles of the feet together and then drop the knees wide. Elbows come into touch, elbows go wide. Knees come into touch, knees go wide. Sit up tall. Last time, elbows come in, elbows go wide. Knees come in, knees go wide. Release the hands, let them rain down, give it a little hokey pokey, shake it out, take the feet off the blocks and sit up tall one more time. So we've done most of what I intended for us to do today. I don't want to push it a whole lot, but I am going to introduce you to a posture that is difficult to do seated. This is much easier to do on the floor, and we'll definitely work that on the floor going forward. But today I want you to find out, explore how to relax sitting in your chair. So what I would invite you to do is now scoot the hips back and find the back of the chair. Still finding length in the spine and width in the shoulders. Keep the feet and knees a little further apart, and hands can come down to rest on the thighs. Sit up tall, long spine, wide shoulders, but still supported by the chair. Now, what could you do to make this 1% more comfortable other than to get down on the floor? But we're going to stay seated today. Soft gaze or closed eyes. But I would invite you to explore a little bit. Walk one foot out a little, then the other. Is that better? Is that more relaxed? Did you just lose your spine? Do you need to draw your heels back in so that you find the length in your spine again? Or did that feel good? But sitting up tall, long spine, wide shoulders, open heart, and closed eyes, if you're okay with that. Let the weight of your hands and the weight of your arms rest. If you have a long torso and your arms are not resting on your legs, use your block, or if you have a blanket handy, put it on your lap so that you can rest the weight of your arms. Let's experiment a little bit. Let your hands fall off your legs and hang down at your sides. Does that feel more relaxed or less? and go back to whichever feels more supported and more relaxed. And then find your breath. We'll return to the breath. It's where we started, it's where we'll finish. Find your breath. Sit up tall, long spine, wide shoulders. Notice where your breath is moving in your body. Notice how the breath feels when it comes into the body, in through the nose or in through the mouth. How does it feel as it goes down the back of your throat? How does the body feel? The belly, the ribs, the chest, the shoulders. How does it feel as it inflates and fills with breath? How does it feel as it softens and deflates? Notice the breath, either at the tips of your nostrils or at your lips. Notice the air before it becomes breath. Notice the breath as it becomes air, as it leaves the body through the lips or through the tips of the nostrils. Check in that your shoulders haven't tensed and relax them again. Slow and deepen your breath. Does your breath feel different now that you're paying attention to it? Does your body feel different now that you've paid a little attention to it? Do you feel different now that you've taken one short hour for yourself? Take 3 more long, slow breaths here. Noticing how the body feels, how the air moves, how the breath moves. And then wiggle your toes. Just pick them up and wiggle them around. Wiggle your fingers, pick them up and wiggle them around. Pick up the heels, wiggle through the ankles. Pick up the hands, rotate through the wrists. And let that motion, that movement, move up into your knees and your hips, your elbows, your shoulders, your head and neck. Move absolutely everything. Anything that feels good, give it a wiggle. And then come back to a neutral position. You can leave the eyes closed or open them if you're ready. It's time to close out our practice. I always close a practice in a traditional manner. It's traditional for the teacher to thank the student for allowing me to guide the practice, for sharing your time, your effort, your energy with me. Time is the most precious of our commodities because we don't know how much that we have and we can't get it back after it's spent. So I honor the gift of your time. And I like to close the practice in a traditional manner. If you've only ever heard one word in yoga, it's probably namaste. It's really 2 words. It means bow to you. That's all it means. And I like to close with that thank you from teacher to student. Thank you for allowing me to share your time, for honoring me with your presence, with your light, your love, your energy. May peace be yours today, tomorrow, and always. May joy gladden your days and laughter fill your hours. And may love lead your way home. Namaste. Ladies, thank you for hanging out with me today. And Patty, since I've got you here, you were not here when I went through this at the beginning. This is the first in what we hope is going to be an ongoing series. Today, we chose to start with the chair to just get the foundation. Ideally, what we're going to do moving forward is be less and less reliant on the chair and do 90% of our practice standing or on the floor. And we'll just use the chair like a really tall block when we're doing some balancing things, or when we're doing some balancing things. It's great to be able to hang on to that chair when you're standing on one foot. And those of you at home don't always have the benefit of a wall. So having a sturdy chair is really handy. Here in studio, we can either use the chair or use the wall. We will not use the windows for obvious reasons. We're on the second floor. That's a little iffy to be leaning on those windows. So I'll be pushing Bobby over to be leaning on the wall. But what we want to do is find some functional movement that keeps everything lubricated and everything moving. And we're going to sneak in some strength and some flexibility. And if you'll stick with me, I promise we'll surprise ourselves. I've seen it before. We will surprise ourselves at where we go with this. But ladies, that's it. Those of you on Zoom, I will come over. And if you've got any questions or comments, I really, really welcome your feedback. Miss Bobby, gather up your toys and we will get you on your way this afternoon. So,
You deal with them, there's more of them than there is of me.
well, I tell you, this is interesting. I didn't know Patty was joining us today. And all of a sudden, Wanda's blue t-shirt turned into a hot pink t-shirt. And out of the corner of my eye with my bifocals, I was sort of like, okay, that doesn't look like Wanda anymore. But Patty, I'm glad you jumped in and joined us. Any questions, comments, or feedback for me? I'm yours. Oh, let me turn off the record. There we go. So then you can be